There are some stories the old ones would only tell after dark, not to frighten you. The grandmothers were not cruel, and they did not scare children for sport. They told these after dark because the dark is when a person listens with their whole self, when a lesson can get down deep where it needs to go. And the one I am going to tell you tonight is one of those. It is a legend about a shapeshifter, about someone who traded away their own humanity for power, and what that trade cost them in the end. Pull your chair close and let the fire burn low, because this is a story with a warning folded inside it, and the warning is meant for you. Now, before I begin, let me tell you plainly what this is and what it is not, because I am an old storyteller and I owe you the truth. This is a legend. It is not a true account of a real creature, and it is not the secret business of any one people, which is not mine to tell, and would not be right to tell. Many peoples all over this world have a story like this one, a story about a person who reaches for a power they were never meant to hold, and the shape they take is different in every telling. But the warning underneath is always the same. So do not go to bed tonight afraid of something in the woods. That is not what this is for. By the time this fire burns down, you will see that the only thing in this story worth being afraid of is a choice, and it is a choice a person makes or refuses inside their own heart. So, let me tell it the way it was told to me. There was, the old one said, a person who was not content. Now, being restless is not itself a sin, and wanting to make something of your life is a good thing. And I want you to hear that first, because this is not a story against ambition. But this person's wanting had a bad root in it. They looked at the ordinary life, the honest work, the slow building of respect and skill and love that a good life is made of, and they found it too small and too slow. They did not want to earn their standing among the people. They wanted to have it now, and more of it than anyone, and they did not much care what it cost the people around them. They had gifts, this person. That is the sad part of every story like this. It is almost never the weak or the foolish who go down this road. It is the gifted ones, the ones who could have done so much good, who grow impatient with the honest pace of good things and go looking for a shortcut. And there is always, in these stories, a shortcut on offer. The old ones did not describe it in detail, and neither will I, because the how of it does not matter, and dwelling on it is the very thing they warned against. It is enough to say that there are roads a person is warned, again and again, from the time they are small, never to walk. Roads that promise power in exchange for something you cannot see the value of until it is already gone. In this legend, the bargain was this: you may have real power. You may learn to change your shape, to wear the form of an animal or another person, to move through the night unseen, to take what you want and slip away before anyone knows. And in exchange, you give up your humanity, not all at once. That is the cunning of it. You give it up a little at a time, so slowly you hardly notice, one small piece with every use, until one day there is nothing left to give. The old ones would pause here in the telling, every time, and let the fire crackle a while before they went on, because they wanted the young ones to understand that the person in the story did not think of themselves as doing something evil. That is important. No one who makes this trade believes they are the villain. They tell themselves a story, the way we all do. They tell themselves the world is unfair, and it is, and that the honest road is rigged against them, and sometimes it is, and that they will just use the power for a little while, for good reasons, to protect themselves, to get what they are owed, and then they will set it down. They always believe they will be the one who can hold the fire without being burned. That is the oldest lie there is, and the person in the legend believed it as sincerely as anyone ever has. So do not picture some cackling creature who chose to be a monster. Picture a clever, wounded, impatient person who is very sure they had it under control. That is far more frightening and far more true and far closer to home. And so the person made the trade. And here is the part the old ones told slowly, because it is the true heart of the warning. At first, it worked. That is what you must understand. If these bargains did not work at first, no one would ever make them. The power was real, and it was intoxicating. The person could do things no one else could do. They could take what they wanted. They could settle old scores. They could move through the world getting their way unseen, unaccountable, above the rules that bound everyone else. And for a while, they felt like a god walking among small people, and they pitied the honest folks still doing their slow, honest work, and they thought themselves clever for having found the shorter road. But every time they used the power, it took its piece. And the pieces it took were the pieces that made them a person. The first thing to go was tenderness. They found they could no longer feel the small warm things, the pleasure of a friend's company, the softness a person feels looking at a sleeping child, the little daily kindnesses that had once come to them without thinking. Those went quiet, and then they went dark. Then went trust, because a person who takes by stealth comes to believe everyone else is doing the same, and so they grew suspicious of everyone and more alone. Then went the face. This is the part that gives the legend its shape. The person found that the borrowed shapes, the animal forms, and the false faces began to fit better than their own. Their own face in the still water started to look strange to them, like a mask they were tired of wearing, and the monstrous shape started to feel like home. That is how you know the trade is nearly complete. It is when the false face fits better than the true one. Now let me tell you what they became, because people always want to know, and because the answer is not what the frightened part of you expects. They did not become a beast with fangs and claws, some snarling thing in the dark you could point at and say, "There, that is the monster." The horror the old ones were pointing at was quieter and much worse than that. What the person became was empty. There was a shape that walked and talked and wore whatever face it needed, but there was no one home behind the eyes anymore. The warmth was gone, the trust was gone, the tenderness was gone, and what was left was a hunger wearing a person's clothes. And here is the thing that frightened even the old ones. The people who had once loved this person could feel it before they could name it. They would be near them and feel a coldness, a wrongness, and they would find themselves wanting to be somewhere else without quite knowing why. That is the real monster in the story, not the fangs. The emptiness where a person used to be. The old ones told of one who met this person, late, near the end. A young traveler, the story goes, who came upon them on a road at dusk and did not know what they were, and the two of them talked a while, ordinary talk. And the traveler said afterward that they could not name anything wrong. The person had been pleasant, they had smiled and said the right things. And yet the whole time, the traveler said, the hair on their arms had stood up, and they had wanted, with everything in them, to be away from that road, and they did not understand why until they were told, later, what they had been standing next to. That is how the story teaches it. The danger does not announce itself with fangs. It smiles and says the right things. And the only warning you get is that old feeling in your gut, the one that says leave, the one we are all so quick to talk ourselves out of because we do not want to be rude, because the person seems fine, because we have no reason we could say out loud. And you have felt that, have you not? I think if you are honest, you have. You have been in a room with someone and felt that coldness come off them, that sense that whatever they are showing you on the surface, there is nobody really there, only a want. The old ones gave that feeling a shape so you would remember to trust it. That feeling is old and it is wise, and it is your own humanity recognizing the absence of humanity in someone else. Do not talk yourself out of it. It has kept your people alive for longer than anyone can count. Now, the old ones did not leave the story there, because a story that is only a warning and offers no other road is a cruel story, and they were not cruel. So the legend has another figure in it, and this is the one I want you to carry home. There was another person in the same telling who was offered the same road. Some tell it that they were offered it by the first one, who wanted company in what they had become, the way the lost always want company. And this second person was not richer or stronger or better armed against temptation than the first. They felt the pull of it, the same as anyone would. To have power, to settle their scores, to stop being at the mercy of a hard and unfair world. Who would not feel the pull of that? But they looked down that road, and they saw where it went, because the old ones had told them, "The way I am telling you now," and they said no. They chose the slower life, the poorer life in some ways, the life where you have to earn your standing and endure your enemies and wait a long time for justice that may never fully come. They chose to keep their own face. In some tellings, the moment of the choosing is very small and very quiet, and I like those tellings best, because that is how the real choosing goes. There was no great battle, no dramatic refusal shouted into the wind. The story says the second person simply thought of the people who loved them, and of the face those people knew, and of what it would do to those people to look into their eyes one day and find no one there. And they decided that they would rather have less and stay someone than have everything and become no one. That was the whole of the heroism. A quiet decision, made alone, that some things are worth more than winning. The old ones held that person up, not the powerful one, as the one who truly won, because at the end of their ordinary life, they were still themselves, still able to feel the warm, small things, still someone their grandchildren could climb up on and feel safe. That, the old ones said, is what winning actually looks like. It is getting to the end still human. It is dying with your own face on, in a bed surrounded by people who are sorry to see you go. The powerful one in the story died too, of course, everyone does. But they died alone, in a shape that was not theirs, and no one came, and no one was sorry. Ask yourself which of those two is really the story of a life that worked. So let me step out of the story now and tell you what it is really about, because you are grown and you have earned the plain meaning under the legend. The shapeshifter was never really about a creature in the woods. It was the old one's way of talking about a thing they saw over and over in people, and a thing you will see too if you have not already. There are people who trade their humanity for power a piece at a time, and they do not need any dark magic to do it. They trade their kindness for advantage. They trade the truth for winning the argument. They trade their friends for their ambition. They put on whatever face gets them what they want in the moment, agreeable here, ruthless there, wounded and blameless whenever they are caught, until you realize you have never once seen their real face, and you begin to suspect they have forgotten where they left it. Little by little, they become that empty shape wearing a person's clothes, all hunger and no home. The legend just gives it fangs and a name so you will recognize it sooner, and so you will recognize it in the one place it matters most, which is in your own mirror, on the days you are tempted to make a small version of the same trade. I knew a man once who showed me the truth of this legend without ever knowing he was doing it. He was, when I first knew him as a younger fellow, a warm and open person, quick to laugh and quick to help, the kind of man who would stop his own work to lend you a hand with yours. But he wanted to get ahead, and the world he was in rewarded a certain hardness, and so, a little at a time, he made his trades. He learned to shade the truth when it helped him, and then to tell it flat backward when it helped him more. He learned to be charming to the people who could lift him and cold to the people who could not. He learned to hold a grudge like a coal and to enjoy, quietly, the misfortunes of anyone he counted a rival. None of it looked like magic. It looked like ambition, and the world around him mostly called it success. But I watched it happen over the years, the way you watch a season turn if you are patient, and I will tell you, the light went out of him by inches. The laugh got thinner. The warmth got performed instead of felt. And near the end of his life, I sat with him one afternoon, a powerful man by then, a man who had gotten most of what he traded for, and I felt it come off him. That cold I have been telling you about, that emptiness where the open young man used to be. He had his power. He had wide fields and a big name. And he was the loneliest man I have ever sat beside, because there was no longer quite anyone in there to keep him company, not even himself. He had shape-shifted his whole life long, one small, honest thing at a time, and at the end he could not have found his own true face if you had handed him a mirror. The old ones did not need to invent a monster. They just watched people, and then they gave what they saw a shape, so the rest of us would see it coming. Because you will be offered it. That is the last thing I want you to take from this fire tonight, and it is why the story is meant for you and not for some monster in a faraway wood. You will be offered the trade, not once and dramatically, but 100 quiet times in ordinary clothes. A chance to get ahead by a lie no one will catch. A chance to have your revenge on someone who wronged you and to feel that cold satisfaction. A chance to wear a false face because the true one is not getting you what you want. And each of those is the same bargain the person in the legend made, only smaller, and the price is the same, only paid in smaller coin. A piece of your humanity, given up so slowly you will hardly notice, until one day you look in the still water and the face there looks strange to you. The old ones told this story after dark so that the next time you are offered that trade, in whatever quiet, ordinary shape it comes, some part of you will remember this fire and will know it for what it is and will say no. So keep your own face. That is the whole of it, in the end. Whatever they offer you, and however slow and poor and hard the honest road looks next to the shortcut, keep your own face. Stay someone your grandchildren could climb up on and feel safe. Stay someone a good person can be near without feeling that cold. Power taken by trading away your humanity is not power at all. It is just a well-dressed emptiness, and it is the loneliest thing there is, and I would not wish it on anyone. The person in the legend had all that power in the end, and there was no one left who could stand to be near them, and nothing left inside them to enjoy it with. That is not a monster to be afraid of tonight. That is a warning to live by tomorrow. So there is the story, told the way it was told to me after dark with the fire low. Do not carry any fear out of this tent with you. There is nothing in the woods coming for you tonight. Sleep easy. The only shapeshifter you will ever really have to watch is the one who lives behind your own eyes, the one who is tempted, now and then, to trade a piece of what makes you human for something that glitters. Keep watch on that one, gently, and keep your own face, and you have nothing at all to fear from the dark. Blow out the lamp when you are ready. Rest well. I will keep the fire.